The 2024 release Netflix horror thriller film that is The Don't Move, released in the 2024, starts with introduction of the scene of a beautiful scenery of forest, and then the scene just gradually shifts towards a family in a home where we see the introduction of the character of Iris, that is sleeping with her husband, and the film opens with Iris that is standing on a cliff right now, and she just tears streaming down her face holding a small toy boat, a keepsake from her late son that is Mateo, and she reflects on her guilt over Mateo's accidental death. So this is where we get a kind of a glimpse of what had happened with her son, and she just prepares to jump after that, and she edges closer to the ledge, and when we see that when she reach at after she wakes up and just run to that point of time where we see that she memorized something about her late son. So this is where the character of Richard arrives, and Richard is a very kind of smart guy right here, initially presenting himself as a very kind of a good guy, and he talks her down from the cliff with a kind of a calm reassurances, gaining her trust just long enough to just kind of drug her, just kind of just take benefit of her. And this sequence just sets a kind of a very chilling and very kind of a thriller tone to the movie, hinting at the Richard's character of the Richard just being so manipulative in this movie, and the nature of his manipulativeness as he drags her unconscious body into the car as we see, and just signaling the start of a terrifying journey right now, because we don't know as an audience even what is going to be happen in the next scene of the movie. Now Iris awakens in a kind of a dimly lit cabin and paralyzed from the drug that Richard injected her with, and her surrounding are kind of a barren and very unsettling, with the traces of the Richard past victims that are hinted in a very subtle details, like the bloodstain and personal belongings scattered across the room. Richard kind of began the monologuing, describing his fascination with controlling life and death and kind of playing with it around. He reveals that he sees his victim not as just a people but as a kind of a tools to affirm his so proclaimed divinity and to amplify her fear. He sets a timer, explaining that once entering, she will become the next project or whatever that is called in his language or in this code word. The scene just showcases this kind of meticulous plan and Iris growing terror as she struggles to move or speak, but somehow the Iris try to attack him and she just eventually get out, and now she is just running into the woods right now from this terrorized kind of a predator that is a Richard, and she just stuck under a rock right now. We can as we can see that, and the ants are just kind of surrounding her, and because she's injected with that, so slowly her nervous system and all the things in her body just slow down, and she is kind of a very stiff and stiff. And after some time Richard just finds her, and she is then again kept into his back seats of his car, and now Richard just digs into Iris' psyche, forcing her to relive the events that are leading to his Mateo's death. And through flashback we learn that the Mateo drowned in a pool while Iris was distracted and leaving her consumed by a kind of guilt that just haunt her, and Richard uses this information to manipulate her further, telling her that she deserves her suffering, so she listens helplessly, and her tears reflect her kind of emotional turmoil, but Richard's twisted amusement and kind of argument at her pain just add to the horror that is presently happening to her. And meanwhile Iris' mind just began working on how to regain the control again. The scene generally deepens the kind of emotional weight of the film as the Iris' internal struggle just mirror her physical paralysis, as we can see, because she is not able to move, and that is just kind of very, you can say, a very kind of a hard situation for her. As the drug begins to wear off, Iris just remains slightly mobility in her fingers and toes, and she pretends to remain completely paralyzed while certainly testing her limits and kind of hoping to outwit Richard's. And their conversation grew more revealing, with Richard explaining how his God complex developed after surviving a car crash that killed his partner, and that is just, and now Iris using her wit and just a kind of interest in his story to distract him, subtly shifting the power dynamic. The flicker of hope in Iris contrast so that sharply with Richard's unyielding dominance, setting up the eventually clash between both of them. I forget to mention that when there was first encounter with the Iris of with Richard. So when she was in the woods and when she was paralyzed after that, kind of you can say due to the drugs. So she was found by the character of Bill right here, who is the old man. He was driving car, and when he see that Iris was lying on the ground itself, and he suddenly stopped the car and he just get out of the car, and when he sees her, and she was kind of a numb, not telling anything or not even giving some kind of a subtle hint that what has happened to her, and then he just kind of help her throughout the situation. He just take her the character of the Iris to his home, and right now in the home she's having rest right now, and they are just kind of having a conversation to get to the point where the character of the Bill could know that what happened to her, so that she is in such a kind of a dangerous situation, and somehow she is not able to tell that. And but suddenly we see that the character of Richard, I don't know how the hell did he find the address, but he just reached out there, and now Richard just casually kind of waves a very manipulative story, claiming that Iris is his mentally unstable wife, so kind of playing to just trick the old man off. And when the Bill kind of grows suspicion on this man because it doesn't look legit, so Richard kills him in a very brutal struggle. As we can see, the fight is just kind of very neat and clean, and the old man really give Richard's a kind of very tough fight. You see right in the when he hit the two punches in his uh, face in the first two attempt, but eventually due to oldness I think your power decreases, so it is very natural for Richard to win here. And the sequence just ends with Richard dragging Iris back and further crushing her hopes of escape. uh, but one thing that is, the whole house is just burned by him, and the character of Iris that was lying behind the sofa where he was sitting, and the old man Bill was sitting in front of it, and this is how the scene was just set up. And but anyhow, the old man was just able to activate an emergency signal before his death, kind of alerting the local authorities. And now Richard, realizing that time is just running out of his hand, kind of doses the cabin with the gasoline and set its ablaze. And as the flames consume the small structure, Iris watches helplessly, and her face illuminated by the growing inferno of flames. The fire just, I think, here symbolizes her both determination and all encompassing threat that Richard represents, and Richard taunts her, suggesting that she will burn alongside the cabin if she doesn't comply. In the chaos, Iris begins to piece together small details about Richard's vulnerabilities and planting seeds for her eventual fight back in the next time wherever she gets the time. And now Richard drives the Iris to a nearby lake. We can see that when he is kept in a car and they are having kind of conversation where he just kind of he's trying to just bully her or show that he is supreme, and he's now kind of hinting the what will be the plan of him plan of him after this. And when they reach at the point of the time, so he just trying to manipulate her, just try to take benefit of her. And when we reach at that corner of the lake right there to a small rowboat, and with the intent of disposing of her body in the water, so it can be just kind of tensionless for him, not taking much kind of stress on him. The tension is just palpable as Richard's psychological hold over Iris clashes with her growing resolve to survive. And as they drift, Iris taps into her grief over her dead son, and using it to appeal to Richard's twisted psyche, she begs him to save her dead son's toys boat and a sentimental kind of item she has carried since her son's death. And this seemingly innocent request disarms Richard momentarily for a very low period of time, for very less period of time, allowing Iris to grab a kind of a very sharp and concealed knife, and her tears and desperation kind of mask her determination, culminating in a very sudden and kind of a brutal attack. And in a very fierce battle between both of them, Iris, now this is the time for my girl to fight, so she just stabs Richard and grabs his gun right there, that and shoots him as the boat just began to take on water. Before that scene, I just forget to add the later encounter the Richard had with the policeman, because the old man just informed the authorities. So first of all, the suspicion was just on him, because the policeman or the sheriff just thought that he was not a kind of legit guy, because the story that he was weaving not seem kind of authentic to him. And when he tried to communicate with Iris, when he just got nearer to the car, and where he just kind of take the I think one of the material he was having, one of the rod or the shovel he was having, uh, the I think the material that is used in the gardening mainly, he was having that, and he just hit that old sheriff with that, and the policeman was just gone out of place. I mean, just he was right dead there when the attack was right on the head. So it was very brutal attack. So this is the scene I forget to just mention. uh, so after that scene, where we now are present at this time where Iris very confidently just killed him with the help of the knife, and then just with the help of gun and gunshots. And now the scene is just kind of chaotic, with Richards controlling sleeping for the very first time in the film, and Iris kind of we can see the very happy moments on her face. We can see she's very happy, she's smiling, because as we can see in the long shot of the film, where the character of the Richard is just gone and kind of drowned in that large lake, and she's successfully, we can see that, swims to shore. But Richard, though wounded, follows her, crawling her into a muddy bank, because at the muddy bank we can see that he's not dead, he's just alive, standing over him. Iris reflects on everything that he has put her through. Instead of killing him, she utters his own taunting word, that is thank you, these two great words. So before walking away, this act just kind of flips the power dynamic, leaving the Richard paralyzed and humiliated, forced to face his own mortality without the control he so desperately craves. As morning breaks, Iris emerges from the woods, battered but alive. Her experience has transformed her, and she is no longer blames herself for her son's death, and the toy boat, which once symbolizes her guilt and now represents her silence. She realizes that surviving Richard's torment has given her clarity and strength to move forward. And the final shot shows Iris just walking away from the lake, leaving Richard behind to confront his own despair. And the survival is both kind of a physical victory and a symbolic rebirth, emphasizing a theme of empowerment, renewal, kind of a confidence, and a more developed person overall after this kind of incident that has taken place. Uh, I think the movie was really good. I saw a really good thriller film after a long time. I must say that it's kind of really not much of the character was involved, or not a very heavy fancy budget, or some heavy fight CGI scene in the kind of horror thriller movie that we nowadays see in some of them, not all of them. So it was a great movie, and the film generally portrays Iris' journey as very kind of one of the self-forgiveness and culminating in her life, and kind of reclaiming her life and agency. And Richard's god complex just crumbles, I think, as Iris challenges his control and exposing his kind of vulnerable kind of his weakness right there. I think really the choice not to kill the Richard just highlight the difference between Iris and her tormentor, where Richard sought power and control, but Iris just seek kind of freedom and peace. And by leaving Richard alive, Iris just strips him of his perceived dominance, kind of forcing him to just face his own fragility. So, and just Iris' ordeal transforms her life into a kind of strength that she was earlier not having. She was lacking that, and emphasizing the film's theme of just finding purpose and power throughout the struggle, and trying to be just uh, better as a person overall. And so the movie was really great. If you like this kind of breakdowns, do subscribe to our channel Cinema Shadows. Thank you for watching.